You've probably heard it whispered in the caption of reels, mom groups, or the occasional wellness podcast. You should be cycle syncing your workouts, and maybe you've nodded along, half curious, half overwhelmed, while juggling summer snacks, sunscreen, and bedtime battles that seem to stretch way past 9 p.m. But here's the thought you might not have said out loud, but I certainly have thought before. Is this one more thing I'm just failing at, or just another trend that doesn't fit a mom's life? In this episode, we're going to talk about your cycle, your training, and your God-designed rhythms so you can stop second-guessing your workouts, listen to your body with grace, and train in a way that actually fits your life as a Christian woman and mom. Not from a place of pressure, but from wisdom, compassion, and clarity.
Postpartum is hard. One second we feel like our bodies are miraculous, and the next we feel like we're a complete mess, out of touch with the strong, confident women we used to be, all while the fitness industry pressures us to bounce back as quickly as possible to a body that never looked like it was pregnant to begin with. That's why, whether we're 3 days postpartum or 3 years postpartum, we need the refreshing truth of gospel-focused fitness to give us energy for the physical challenges of motherhood, peace with our postpartum bodies, and kingdom-centered motivation to train for strength and stamina. So mama, whether you're sipping on cold coffee or folding 5-day-old laundry, I pray by listening every Monday, you become equipped, encouraged, and empowered for a strong motherhood, all for God's glory. This is the Strong After Birth podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Summer can be a blessing and, if we're being honest, a bit of a bully. Kids are home, your schedule's upside down, and everything we sometimes can keep tabs on, our meals, our workouts, and even our cycle gets shoved behind sunscreen, snacks, and screen time limits. So when your body starts to feel off, it's tempting to blame yourself. Maybe you wonder, am I just undisciplined? Am I hormonal? Is it even worth working out today? Here's why this is worth it, and why knowing your cycle and adapting your training actually deeply matters. God did not design your body to be chaotic or to feel broken. He designed it with wisdom and rhythms. You are not a machine. You are not a man. You are a living temple with patterns and shifts in hormones that are meant to be honored, not ignored or micromanaged. And when you begin to adapt your training with grace, instead of forcing yourself into rigid performance or falling into all or nothing habits, you can experience tangible fruit, like you build strength and energy over time, especially when you stop stopping. More on that to come. You prevent injury by adjusting intensity and listening to your body's cues, and you lessen self-judgment by recognizing that different isn't bad, it's human. This isn't about syncing to a chart or being perfect. It's about trusting the one who designed your body and learning to walk in step with both your cycle and his spirit. Maybe you got sucked into one of those Instagram ads and you downloaded a cycle syncing workout app. Maybe you tried to follow a chart and maybe it made sense for a few days until you were up all night with a toddler, forgot what day you were on, and decided this is for influencers, not for moms. If you've ever felt that way, you're not broken, you're not crazy, you're a mom. And you're wise to pause and ask questions like, is this even for me? So let's simplify this. Take us back to A&P and make sure we understand the 4 main phases in our cycle before we can talk about how we need to adapt to them and to understand how our hormones are shifting with each one. When you start your period, you are officially on day 1. That is your menstrual cycle or the menstrual phase. This is when estrogen and progesterone are low, you are bleeding. It is very normal to have energy dips during this phase. The second phase is the follicular phase. This is when estrogen is on the rise and our energy starts to go up. Maybe your creativity rises, your motivation to work out, you may feel strong. And then we move into our ovulation phase. This is around day 14, though I should say with the days that I'm giving you that these are not going to be the same for everyone. Everyone has their own unique cycle, and more on that to come. Day 14, or around that 2-week period after your period, is when our estrogen peaks. This is where we get also a boost of testosterone, and you may feel kind of powerful and confident during this part of our phase. Then comes the luteal phase. Some people call this the luteal flu. This is around day 15 to 28 or until you get your next period. This is when progesterone is on the rise. We often feel more bloated, more tired, and sometimes can feel less social. This is when training feels hard. This is the phase that tends to get most moms' attention. This is so beautiful that God gave us a cycle, that God didn't make us chaotic hormone women. He actually gave us a cycle, and I believe that it's a gift that forces us to learn how to rest better, to know when we can push ourselves, and how to tune in to our body's own cues, something that I think women probably need a little bit more help to do. And to help, I want to give us 3 red flags that show you might be ignoring your body's cues during your cycle. But before we talk about syncing your training, here's how to know if your body's been trying to get your attention. Number 1 is pushing through exhaustion because you don't want to lose progress. If you are that person who every time you're in the luteal phase, you feel like you need to push harder and do it quote unquote anyway, and by do it anyway, I mean not lower your weight, expect to hit the same sets and reps, do the high intensity workout even though you don't want to, this is that red flag. Number 2 is only noticing your cycle when your pants don't fit. We ignore the times of our cycle where we have more energy and when we feel better, and then we only focus on the times of our cycle when our body's aesthetic is affected. This focus, I believe, or this red flag, I believe, comes from years of fitness advertisements triggering our insecurities about our bloat that is very natural and normal when we're going through our cycles, particularly during the luteal phase. Number 3 is feeling guilt for modifying your workouts. If you feel like you are being a sissy for modifying your workouts during the luteal phase, please let this be a red flag that maybe you've been ignoring your body's cues. And if you nodded to any of these, know that you are not alone. But your body is not something to battle. And when we do battle with it, we can do more harm than good. Instead of feeling better after our workouts, when we push through, we can feel worse. And even more than that, we can cause hormonal damage to our bodies by pushing through levels of fatigue. Our body is not something to battle, it is something to partner with. Now, even when we start to pay attention, it can be easy to swing the pendulum too far in the other direction. So as I've seen women start to adapt their training to cycle syncing and some of the cycle syncing apps I've looked into out of curiosity, I notice a couple big mistakes. Now, these mistakes are ones that are very easy to make because I think that they sound good. I think they sound helpful, but the effect of these mistakes is that it actually steals strength and I think can create a little bit of a victim mindset when it comes to our hormones. Like our hormones happen to us, that we have no control, that we just have to go with the flow of our cycle. And while I do think that there are times to surrender and listen to our bodies, I want to unpack a couple of these mistakes specifically and what we can do instead. The first mistake that I've noticed is skipping strength training during the luteal or even our menstrual phase. And I've even heard this from clients as they're going through True Strength Builder who have said, I won't be working out this week, I'm on my period. And while we do this, we miss out on valuable strength, mobility, and in addition to that, instead of working out, we find ourselves sitting on the couch, being more sedentary, instead of using lower reps, adding more rest, or maybe slowing down our pace. Here's the truth. Your body still benefits even when you're just doing gentle stretches or core work during your menstrual phase. And when it comes to the luteal phase, particularly adding in a slower pace, more rest, and using a lower weight can really help us to move through some of the stiffness, soreness, low energy that happens during that cycle to make it feel better. Number 2 is expecting every cycle to be the same. Often in the cycle syncing apps, you'll notice that it's based on a 28-day cycle. But here's the reality. If you are a mom who has breastfed and or are still breastfeeding, your period may not be 28 days. Your period may be 32 days or 24 days or 26 days. So instead of tracking from the day to day, I would encourage you to just track your pattern over 3 to 6 months. And let your life context in big perspective help you interpret your cycle. I'm going to give us a plug here for the Oura Ring because I do believe that it's probably been one of the most monumental decisions that I've made to help me get in tune with my hormones and my training. Because it takes my body temperature and it shows me my resting heart rate, my HRV every day, and I can use it to track my cycle, it really helps me to see what's going on with my body from a data perspective, things that I might not be able to feel or notice on the day-to-day. This can be really valuable because you can see trends in your cycle over months and over years. For example, I've now had my Oura Ring for 3 years, and it's been so cool to see how my cycle has adapted to training, to breastfeeding, to being a mom. And it helps me to know when to slow down, when to ease up if I'm not able to exactly tune in and feel those lower energy peaks. Mistake number 3 is letting cycle syncing justify an all or nothing thinking. I've heard this one before. Maybe we say, oh, I'm on my period, I just won't work out this week, which turns into a whole week and a half or 2 weeks of missing workouts. And before we know it, we're on our period again and we feel like we never got in a good training rhythm to begin with. Let cycle syncing instead be supportive. Don't let it be restrictive. There's a mindset out there that you shouldn't do any strength training or exercise during the luteal phase. And because your luteal phase can be 2 to 3 weeks, if we were to expand that over the course of the year of 52 weeks in a year, you would be missing out on almost a quarter of the entire year not training. Imagine how much more strength and energy and muscle and bone density and improved vitality you would have if you had trained during that time, even if it was at a lighter intensity. So here's a better approach. Let syncing be supportive, not restrictive. Remember, movement is still a gift, even if it is different than you expected it to be. So what can we do instead? Here's what I offer to my clients and practice myself. I can see how we get there. Like, we want to honor our body, but we can feel overwhelmed by this information. So that's why you'll focus on building body awareness and training rhythms, not rigid syncing. By doing this, you'll stop feeling like you're starting over each month and start noticing steady strength, emotional peace, and deeper body trust. It's kind of like learning to sail with the wind rather than rowing against it. Because if we keep ignoring our cues, we often stay stuck in burnout and shame cycles and notice that our hormones feel, for lack of a better term, quote unquote, out of whack. So start tracking by how you feel. Notice your strength, notice your energy, notice your mood for 7 days. You don't need an app. Just notes in your planner. Note where you are in your cycle, which day you're on if you know, and if not, just go back to your last period and count the day you got your period as period day 1. Imagine a new way of training that feels like partnering with your body, not punishing it. You start your workout, you can check in with how you feel and confidently swap your 4th set for some deep breathing and mobility. You leave that session not feeling weak, but feeling restored, whole, strong. Your kid sees you lifting and says, "Mama, you so strong." And you don't brush it off. You receive it. You say, "I am strong," because you are in all phases. So here's this week's challenge for you. I want you to track your body, not just your period. Each day, just jot down, how is my energy today? Did I feel strong? What did I need? No grades here, no gold stars, just wisdom, just noticing. And I want to invite you to add the Holy Spirit into this journey as you're learning to adapt your training to your hormone cycles. 1 Corinthians 6 verses 19 through 20 says, "You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body." We're not trying to control. We're not trying to compare. We are trying to glorify. And even Ecclesiastes 3:1 comes to mind as I think of this. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. Yes, even your luteal phase, even your rest, even your strength. As a resource for you to learn more about your cycle, more about your body, I'd highly recommend you read the book, The Period Repair Manual by Dr. Laura Brydon. She is a phenomenal OBGYN, and she gives such valuable insights to what is happening during our phase. If you are a postpartum mom who feels like your period is out of whack, like you don't know when your next period is going to come, and maybe you're hearing me talk about periods and you're starting to shudder a little bit to think about it, I really would encourage you to read that with a postpartum perspective. She gives so many practical tips and reminders and strategies for helping to improve your hormones, which, by the way, one of those is strength training. So, as always, if this episode helped you breathe easier or brought you clarity, would you take 30 seconds to leave a review and send it to a friend? That one text might be the grace she needs today. Today you learned all about your cycle. You learned some strategies for training around your cycle and maybe some mistakes that people can often make when it comes to syncing their cycle with their training. I hope that today's episode gave you more clarity, more education, and helped you to feel more empowered to tune into your body for next workout. Until next time, friends, stay strong. All the love, Coach Laura.